Hi there. Welcome to Flaming Star Podfics. Today we're going to be reading Second Chance Ranch by Thief of Light 68 on AO3. This is Chapter 3, Blue Balls. Dragging the trash can to the dumpster, Kotsky heaved it up over his head. Metal clanged as it smashed into the huge canister. Walking back to the work shed, he wiped his face with his t-shirt. This was the best work he'd done in a long time. Pulling off the old pair of leather gloves he'd found under the work table, he surveyed his progress. There was actual floor space starting to show. A sense of contentment spread through him. After only 2 hours, he already felt an affinity with this space. A cool breeze blew through the door. Shivering, he decided to stop for the night. Flipping off the lights, he walked quickly to his cabin to clean up. Feeling the chill of the oncoming night through his light clothes, he'd need warmer stuff and a new jacket. Being this close to the mountains, they'd have snow in the next few months. Washing up, he came out and sat down to inspect his boots. He'd always wondered why people wore Western-style boots with smooth soles. Picking the manure and shavings out of his heavy tread, he figured out the answer. Suddenly, someone yelled from up at the main house. Shoving his feet into his semi-cleaned boots, he headed out to the courtyard. "You hungry?" Cyril came up behind him and grabbed his shoulders. "Starving." Kotsky's stomach rumbled loudly. "Haven't eaten since I stopped for an early lunch." "Well, Iz made dinner tonight, so it'll be toxic as shit, but it's hot and fills your stomach." "He cooks?" "No, that's the problem," Cyril laughed. "When Mina and Tanya worked on the ranch, they traded cooking duties with Inko, but now it's just Iz and Kiri left." "You don't cook?" "Do you like living?" Sarah smiled and shrugged. Kotsky clicked his tongue, feeling a flicker of annoyance at the others. He knew Freckles had to be exhausted and hurting from his injury. Why didn't Kiri cook tonight? "Well, Iz is better than Kiri, and that's not saying a lot. Hopefully we get another cook soon, but until then, he's the best we got." Walking across the wide porch of the house, they stepped into the warm kitchen. Taking a deep breath, Kotsky only smelled the fragrance of meat cooking, nothing burnt or strange. Hanging his jacket on the peg, he looked around the large room. It was a typical ranch-style kitchen, one wall covered in the usual appliances, a stone fireplace on the opposite side, and a long kitchen table with mismatched chairs pushed up by the window. Freckles was at the stove, stacking burgers on a plate. "Can I set the table for you?" "Take these." Cero handed him some plates from a cupboard. "We keep everything in here. If you help me now, Kiri and Shin can clean up after." Working together as they set the table, finishing just as the other two came into the kitchen. "Looks good, Iz. Glad you went easy." Kiri sat down and grabbed a burger. "Yeah, it's not fancy." Freckles glanced at him. "I'm still a little fuzzy from the medication. Thankfully, there were some leftovers I could use." "This looks really good." Kotsky sat in the last open chair next to Shinso. Purple eyes darted in his direction. Sniffing sharply, he scooted his chair further away from him. Snorting quietly at his open hostility, Kotsky dug into the plate of food. It wasn't his fucking fault he didn't have ranching experience. Taking a huge bite of his burger, his stomach began to calm down. As he ate, he looked around at the others, his gaze lingering on Freckles. The memory of him eating on the hotel porch the night before flashed in his mind. As if reading his mind, his head popped up to catch him staring. He smiled tightly and looked back down at his food. It was the blush that crept up his neck and into his cheeks that gave his thoughts away. Kotsky laughed to himself. Freckles was thinking about last night, too. "On our way back down tonight, I'll show you which horses to feed in the morning, Bakugo." Sero ate the last of his burger. "Okay. You'll only feed the horses that do dawn patrol since they need to eat early. The rest can eat at the regular time." Swallowing, Sero licked his fingers. "Speaking of your horse, Kiri, I think we should put Riot on a different supplement. He's losing weight." "I noticed that." Kiri frowned. "He's going on 10. Still young." "Why not rotate him with another horse?" Freckles leaned over and grabbed the salad bowl. "You could use one of the new ones I bought. Or even Bombshell until Kachan starts riding." The table went silent. Tipping his head, Sero looked between Katsuki and Iz. Kachan, is that your nickname? Oh, Izuku blushed so red he matched the ketchup. I just call him that. He took a huge bite of his burger. When he was drugged up by the doctor, he heard my name wrong. Katsuki mumbled, feeling bad for him. Oh, right, you helped him. Iz told me the whole story. Sero squirted mustard on another burger. What are the odds? It's like it was destined for you to be here or something. I'm finished. Sliding his chair back roughly, Shinso swiped his plate off the table. I'll start the dishes. As he walked to the sink, Katsuki noticed he stole a few glances at him, his dark-rimmed eyes filled with anger. Sighing, he ate a few fries. There was always one that had it out for you in a crowd. He'd just need to make sure he didn't make it fucking worse. Anyone want a beer? Sarah jumped up and opened a small refrigerator by the table. I got a few at the market today. Shit, you went to town? Kiri took one from him. Tell me next time, I need some things. He handed the beer to Katsuki. By the way, if you need any personal items, there are a few local shops. Otherwise, we bulk order stuff online. Zero handed him another beer. I saw Shoto, too. He was having breakfast in the diner. Who? Katsuki cracked open his beer. Shoto Todoroki. His family owns the ranch that borders ours. He's the bank manager. Sipping his beer, Katsuki realized that he was the asshole fiancé. Freckles' face managed to become a brighter red. Who cares? Shinso barked over his shoulder, his voice dripping with venom. Why do you hate him so much, Shin? Sero leaned back in his chair, opening his beer. Damn, remember when the three of you were thick as thieves? Damn, remember when the three of you were as thick as thieves? I'm heading to bed. Freckles practically jumped straight up from the chair. Clearing his plate, he raced out the side door, mumbling good night. Shit, Sero, you know better. Kiri chewed on the last of his burger and shook his head. He hates when you bring him up. Playing with his can of beer, Sero shrugged. He's going to have to get used to him at some point. I mean, they're engaged. A plate crashed to the floor, startling them. Fuck! Shinso crouched down, collecting the pieces. Damn it, careful, that shit is sharp. Lurching from the table, Kiri ran to help him. Ouch! Shinso dropped the piece he'd been reaching for as his palm swelled with blood. Snagging the kitchen towel from the sink, Kiri wrapped it around his hand. Come on, let's get this taken care of for you. Practically hauling him out the kitchen, he yelled at them to clean up as the door slammed behind them. Well, shit, Sarah grumbled. Good first night for you, he drawled sarcastically as they got up and began to clean up the broken plate. Katsuki stood to help clear the table. Better I know what the hell's going on than say something that will set him off later. He'd started the night thinking Shinso was an idiot, but if he disliked that possessive asshole that much, well then maybe he wasn't so bad. I suppose. Sarah dumped the broken plate in the trash. Deep down, he's just jealous of you. Me? What the hell did I do? Katsuki blinked in surprise. Nothing, don't worry. Once he sees you're not after Iz, he'll calm down. Calm down? What the hell? Slamming his hand against the faucet, he muttered as the water began to fill the sink. After him? Who the fuck would be after him? So what if they'd comforted each other in a hotel room? Or that he was fucking cute as shit? He started washing the dishes furiously, trying to scrub those damn thoughts out of his head. I mean, what if I did like him? That'd be fucking nuts, he grumbled, tackling the greasy pan next. I don't need that kind of shit in my life, especially fucking less than 2 days out of prison. Sarah leaned against the counter and gave him a curious look. What? Is there something on my face? Katsuki wiped his chin on his shoulder. Sarah didn't look away. You got something on your mind? Yeah. He seemed to ponder what he was going to say. You're right, it would be fucking crazy, even if something's all weird between the two of them. Stopping, he tisked at himself. Listen to me spreading manure all over the floor. Manure? What does shit have to do with this? It's just a saying. I'm making a mess by saying stuff that isn't my business. Oh, Katsuki stacked the plates on the rack. I guess. Running the water, he rinsed the salad bowl. Um, just curious, so I know. What did you mean something is up between them? Based on the dark look that crossed Ciro's face, he'd asked the wrong question. Forget what I said. Just do me a favor and try to avoid Shin. And if you do see Shoto, run in the other direction. Shin's bark is worse than his bite, but not Todoroki. If you're not careful, he'll rip your head off and leave you for dead. Katsuki snorted loudly. That was exactly the vibe he'd felt today. He was sure that if Todoroki could have gotten away with it, he would have buried him alive. He's a real prize. Well, he keeps up a good front for Iz's sake, but if he did ever snap, he can get away with it. Not like us. Patting Katsuki on the shoulder, Sero grabbed a towel and began drying the dishes. The two men worked quietly until they were finished. Shutting off the lights, they headed down to the barn where Sero introduced him to Riot and Medusa, the horses that Kiri and Shinso rode for dawn patrol. His head was swimming as he tried to follow his directions. He knew he was going to fuck something up. Don't worry too much about it. Can't hurt them with alfalfa, and I'll do the grain until you get it right. Sero yawned and waved good night. Crossing the courtyard, Katsuki went to his cabin and wrapped one of the blankets around himself and plopped onto the couch. Staring out across the dimly lit courtyard, he could see the house up on the hill. The main lights of the kitchen were out, but on the other side, where Freckles had escaped, there was a dim glow. He was awake. The memory of his warmth flooded back with a surge of happiness. You fucking idiot. Katsuki clicked his tongue at himself. Hey. Waving as the two men rode up, Katsuki took their reins gingerly. Like clockwork, Kiri and Shinso returned every day from their patrol just before lunch. Their horses were always sweaty and covered in mud. He waited nervously, watching the horses closely as they both dismounted and untied their packs. You want to try untacking Medusa on your own today? Kiri pulled off his bandana and mopped his face. Fuck, it's hot. Thought it was getting cooler. Sure, I can try. Katsuki was still wary around the horses, but he was learning quickly. Don't leave him alone with my girl. Shinso shot Katsuki with a withering look. Otherwise, I'll be cleaning up his mistakes. Twisting the lid off his water bottle, he sat down on a stack of hay inside the barn, taking a long drink. Let me untack Riot first, so you can watch. Looping his horse's reins over the hitching post, he patted the big roan and began loosening the girth. Katsuki watched him closely as he moved through the process slowly. Stashing the saddle on the drying rack with the blanket, he pointed to him. Okay, do her saddle now. Trying not to hold his breath, Katsuki patted the giant black horse and clicked his tongue softly. Shoving his fingers into the leather, he began to unhook all the straps. Every now and then he would peek at the horse's head and make sure nothing was bothering her. Then he'd go back to tugging everything loose. A honk in the distance echoed into the courtyard. Easing the saddle off the mare, Katsuki turned to see a large white truck roll into the courtyard. Dust swirled around the entire area. Who's that? The truck was a newer model. Large red lettering on the side indicated it was a four-wheeler. The windows were tinted almost black, so it was impossible to see inside. That's Todoroki. Kiri peered over Riot's back as the red and white-haired man leapt from his truck and strode up the stairs two at a time to the main house. Passing the kitchen, he walked down the long porch and without even knocking, went into Freckles' private home. He's a dick, Shinso muttered from where he'd walked out when Shoto had pulled up. It was on the tip of his tongue to agree with him, but Katsuki knew it would sound strange. No one knew they'd even met. Is that the guy you mentioned at dinner? Shinso shot him a death glare and walked back into the barn. Don't mind him. Kiri hung the bridle on the post. He's bitter 'cause he's nursing a one-sided crush on our boss man. Fuck you, Eijiro. I can hear you. Chuckling, Kiri handed him a curry comb. Remember to curry her gently. She has sensitive skin. Slow, smooth circles. He began brushing his horse. Keeping pace with him, Katsuki kept one eye on the house. Everything had gone quiet. Shoto had yet to reappear. So he's the fiancé? Playing dumb wasn't easy for him, but he was curious. He'd been listening intently over the past few days, but after the blow-up at dinner the other night, no one had mentioned his name again. Their conversations were normally around the ranch and outside of Sero. No one else had said a word. Shoto Todoroki, Kiri finally breathed out, the youngest son of the largest cattle rancher in the district. Their land runs right alongside this place. I guess they grew up together? Sort of. The families are tight. Inko Midoriya and Enji Todoroki rule the valley together. water, and cattle. The next biggest ranches are the Togata and Tokoyami families, and then the rest are smaller ones. Kiri slowly brushed the mud and loose hair off Riot. The horse's big head dipped sleepily. Inko always had a dream of uniting the two ranches. Angie's older children had no interest in staying around, though, and moved to the city. The last one left is Shoto, so his voice trailed off. So, it's a bit strange. They're forcing Iz to marry that asshole, Shinso barked from inside the barn. Forcing might be a strong word. You know what I'm saying, Kiri. Don't fucking ignore me. Shinso stalked out of the barn. I'm getting lunch. Shin! Kiri yelled at his retreating back. I'm not ignoring you. He didn't look back, but leapt up the staircase and disappeared into the kitchen. Shit. He really likes Izuku? Katsuki traded the curry for a stiff brush and began flicking the grunge off the horse. He does. Well, he did. He let out an aggravated sigh. When Shin got here, well, you'll learn. He can be a handful. Iz was the one that calmed him down, and they became friends. Shoto was always there helping out around the ranch, so before long the three of them always hung out together. Katsuki could hear the edge in Kiri's voice getting sharper. The three of them? Yeah. Kiri patted Riot gently. It's no secret that Iz has had a huge crush on Shoto his whole life, but initially it was unrequited. Kiri shrugged. Then about 2 months after Shin arrived, they began dating. I guess Todoroki got jealous and finally broke down. How do you know about all this stuff? Katsuki was amazed. He'd been here almost a week, and Kiri had said about 10 words to him. He was talkative today. Mina, one of our ranch hands that just left, she was here back then. Of course, everyone knows about the contract. It was a big deal, especially between the two ranches. Contract? When they started dating, Inko got it into her head to drop a marriage contract with the Todoroki family. A marriage contract? He snorted involuntarily. Right? Kiri frowned. I began working here the year before they left for university. That was when the contract was drawn up. Things were pretty normal, but then they took off to college and everything changed. Shin was completely useless after Iz left, and I had to kick his ass daily to get him to do anything. Kiri grunted softly, a small smile ghosting his lips as he ran the finishing brush over Riot. If he'd blinked, Katsuki would have missed the tender smile. He bit his lip to keep from laughing. Clearly, Kiri was nursing his own one-sided crush on Shinso. He shook his head. It clearly took all types. He wouldn't have ever guessed anyone would like that snotty brat. Must have been a pain. Nah, he was just a kid, so getting him in line was easy. But something must have happened, 'cause any time Iz came back during breaks, he seemed really, not sure how to put it, cold? Especially towards Shin. Kiri shook his head. Poor guy. Shin was a freaking wreck when they left, but devastated when they came back. Iz has barely been friendly to him, let alone anyone else. Did Todoroki take over his dad's ranch as well? Not sure about that. Shoto started working at the bank as some kind of loan manager, but he mainly raises racing horses. Honestly, it's all a bit odd. No one really knows what's going on, but Inko and Enji are steamrolling forward. The wedding is set for next summer. Dropping the brush back into the tack box, Katsi tried to process everything he was saying. Contracts, marriage. It sounded like a fucking soap opera. He could barely keep up with everything. Then why did Izuku get upset when Sarah mentioned him, if they're getting married? Honestly, I don't ask too many questions, but he gets really down when we talk about Todoroki or the wedding. If I had to guess, he doesn't want to get married. Kiri pulled the comb through Riot's mane. Shoto's persistent, though. He comes out here to check on him all the time, especially when someone new shows up. Another large truck barreled into the courtyard, an exact replica of the first, but bright yellow. A large man with flyaway blonde hair jumped down. Noticing Kiri, he smiled and walked towards them. Well, what a surprise. Look who's here, Kiri whispered sarcastically under his breath to Katsuki. Lifting his hand, he called out to the man walking across the courtyard. Hey, Mirio, why are you here? I followed Shoto. He passed me going 100 miles per hour, so I wanted to give him shit for speeding. Officer Hound Dog's itching to give him a ticket. Looking up at the house, he smiled innocently. Is he up with Iz? Sure is. Thanks. Muriel beamed at him and headed to the main house. Kiri elbowed Kotsky. Followed him here, yes. To warn him, no. He chuckled at his own joke. Who's that? Kiri, the walkie-talkie crackled. Hey, Cyril, what's up? A break in the water line at the calving barn. I need you to shut off the water, fast. Throwing Riot's rope at him, Kiri started running. See you at lunch. We'll be up soon. He dashed around the corner. Grabbing the dangling rope, Kotsky led both horses into the barn and tossed them some extra hay. Hanging over the stall door, he watched as Riot ripped into the flake, his whole head flexing with every bite. The rustling of the hay and the rhythmic sound of them chewing was relaxing. Settling his chin on his arm, he looked out at the two large trucks parked next to each other. Why was he even thinking about Freckles? This kid lived in a place that was worlds away from anything he knew. Kotsky had never felt more like a fish out of fucking water. The most dirt he'd ever seen was the lot behind his house and the graveyard at the old church. Luna wandered into the barn and sat down, yawning. Reaching down, he scratched her ear. He just needed to keep his head down, focus on being a mechanic, and get the hell out of here when his parole term was over. Freckles could have his contracts, love affairs, or whatever else was going on here. Sitting at his computer, Izuku scrolled through the list Kachan had sent to him. He was right. It was a lot of money. More than he'd thought. Thankfully, his mom still had some money in the ranch savings. It was worth dipping into, but he'd need to explain his plan to her at some point. Hearing heavy footsteps on the porch, he realized it was lunchtime, and food needed to be pulled out. Jumping from his desk, he started for the kitchen as his office door swung open and Shoto strolled inside. Oh, Izuku stopped short. Just, oh? Shoto grabbed his hand and tugged him into his arms, giving him a quick kiss. Izuku jerked back, forcing himself not to wipe his face where he'd kissed him, and gave him a stiff smile. You surprised me, that's all. He cocked his head. Why are you here? Trying to tamp down his irritation, he knew he should be used to his unannounced visits by now, but it still grated on him. Text me next time, Izuku snapped, but he knew it was pointless. Maybe I wanted to kiss my fiancé and check in on him. I heard you took a nasty spill. He ran his hands through his hair gently. Narrowing his eyes, Izuku knew why he was here. You heard about him? Him? Letting out an exasperated huff, Izuku wiggled out of his arms and leaned against his desk. Don't play dumb, Shoto. The new ranch hand. You mean the ex-convict? Clenching the edge of his desk, Izuku frowned at him. Yes, he's been hired into the program. Why do you do this every time? Do what? I thought I'd come, see you, and give him my thanks. He did help out my fiancé when he was hurt. Crossing his arms, Izuku shook his head. Shoto, you always come sniffing around when a new man starts working on the ranch. Cocking a brow, he gave him a suspicious look. Is he good looking? His tone was teasing, but the look in his eyes was anything but playful. Stop it. Izuku thinned his lips. That wasn't an answer. Don't be a jerk. But yes, he snapped. You want to know? He's a good-looking man. Taking a deep breath, he regretted his words immediately. He always took the bait. I have to get lunch ready. They'll all be up in a bit. I'm surprised you hired him, Shoto sighed. I figured once you took over for your mom, you'd drop this program. He air-quoted with his fingers. Why would I? Izuku was struggling to hide his frustration. It's my mom's legacy. I had to promise to keep it going. We've made friends and helped good people. Her legacy is this ranch he chided him, giving him a condescending smile. Believe me, those supposed friends, they'd rob you in an instant if they thought they could get away with it. Th- that's awful. He stared at him, stunned. Outside of a few people, we've had great employees. Are you saying your dad never has problems with his staff? Shoto closed his mouth as if biting back his words. After a moment, he relaxed. Of course he does. A soft smile crossed his face, which made him look even scarier. Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Yes, you did. Izuku glanced away, keeping his thoughts to himself. I'm going to go make lunch. Did you need anything besides spying on me? I'm not spying. Then why are you here, Shoto? To see you. Izuku threw up his hands. You saw me. I fell, but I'm fine. We have a new ranch hand that's more of a mechanic. He's quiet and is getting along with the others. Anything else? No. Looking over his shoulder, Shoto frowned. Sounds like they're coming up. I'll go for now. But my dad and your mom still expect us for our big dinner later this month. Right. Izuku pulled out his phone and opened his calendar. I'll be there. I suppose they'll want to discuss the wedding. Of course. Shoto took a step forward, hugging him. It'll be fun, especially the honeymoon part. He kissed his forehead again. Swallowing hard, Izuku held still, trying not to cringe from his touch. As usual, the heavy guilt hung on him. He wished he didn't always give up, but he'd learned fighting him wasn't an option. Yeah, it will. He forced a smile. I have to get lunch ready. Pushing past him, he went into the kitchen. That's my is. Shoto smirked as he left. He always came around to his way of thinking and rarely stood his ground. As annoying as the ranch program was to him, he still needed him to be happy and wanting to get married. He could deal with getting rid of the assholes after he had the ranch under his control. Heavy footsteps thundered down the porch. Someone was running. Glancing back out the window, Shoto panicked as he saw Mirio barreling towards the office, a wild grin on his face. Without thinking twice, he bolted for the back door and slipped into the garden. Hunched over, he darted under the windows and looped around to the opposite side of the house. Moving as close as he dared to the corner, he peeked around the edge. Mirio was at the other end, knocking on the office door. He needed to get his truck. Unfortunately, the others were at the top of the stairs, going into the kitchen, blocking his way down. Sizing up the embankment in front of him, he could see it was fairly steep and covered in thick grass and rocks. He decided it was worth risking a few bruises, otherwise there was a good chance that the mongrel would catch him. Timing himself, he waited until Mirio leaned his face against the window of Iz's office. Using all his strength, he leapt over the edge of the embankment, his feet sliding and slipping through the grass. At one point, his legs started moving too fast, but he managed to keep himself upright as he half ran, half jumped down the last of the hill. Running at full speed to his truck, he ripped open the door. Dropping his keys from the visor, he quickly started the engine and pushed it into reverse. Dirt and gravel flew as he spun around the courtyard and hightailed it out of the ranch. What was that? Shinso walked to the window. A huge dust cloud blew up from below. Then suddenly someone dashed past the window. Is that Togeda? Is Mirio here? Freckles set down a plate of cold chicken. Does he need something? Grabbing a chicken leg, Kiri winked knowingly at Katsuki. He said he saw Shoto speeding through town and followed him out here to give him a warning. Warning my ass, Shinso snorted, sitting down as he grabbed the other leg. Grinning, Sero started piling food on his plate. I'm guessing once Shoto saw him, he went out the back. That's the only way to avoid the front door. Shit, he'll do anything to get away from him, Kiri chuckled. The group of them broke out laughing. Forking some cold chicken onto his plate, Katsuki could see Freckles looked like he'd eaten a red-hot chili pepper. He was shifting in his chair with a bright red blush coloring his entire face and neck. The others continued laughing and cracking jokes, completely oblivious. Fucking clueless idiots. Setting down his fork, he cleared his throat, interrupting them. Why's that so funny? Well, Shinso let out a bark of laughter. Mirio bought a horse off Shoto, and ever since then, he laughed louder. He follows him around like a puppy dog. Chortling, he stuffed chicken into his bun. Seems like he's been more aggressive lately. Sero shook his head. Freckles still hadn't moved. Seems kind of rude to me that someone would go after your fiancé. Katsuki could see him flinch as those big green eyes looked up and widened slightly. He started to say something. Oh, shit. Sero wiped his mouth. There's no way Shoto would do anything behind Iz's back. Next to him, Shinso froze, his fork slipping from his hand and clattering onto his plate. Sorry, he mumbled, picking it back up. At the same time, Freckles slammed his mouth shut and looked back down at his food. The blush on his face turned a darker red. Katsuki eyed the two of them. Both looked like they wanted to bolt out of the room. Well, he's a fucking idiot if he did do anything. Shoto's no dummy. His dad taught him well. Kiri scooped coleslaw on his plate. Hide it until you get caught, then deny everything. He glanced at Freckles and smiled sheepishly. Sorry if that makes you uncomfortable. Coughing, he stuffed his face full of food. No. Freckles played with his fork. I know what you mean, and it's not like he hasn't tried to get Muriel to stop. Tried? Kotsky snorted loudly. If I was your fiancé, I would have pinned him to the ground and threatened him within an inch of his life to leave me alone. I think that's what Muriel wants Shoto to do, Cero giggled. Also, Kotsky waited until Freckles looked up at him. I wouldn't wait until next summer. I'd whisk you away and marry your ass right now. That would shut that guy down. It also shut the whole table up. Smirking, Kotsky winked at Freckles and took a huge bite of his chicken. I didn't realize that you knew that much, he whispered. I told him last night. Cero flicked an uneasy look at Kotsky. I imagine you'll get to meet him at some point. Swallowing, he smiled innocently. I already ran into him on our way into town. We chatted. Chatted? Freckles echoed. His blush disappeared instantly as he blanched, looking completely panicked. You met Shoto, my fiancé? Alone? He was having trouble getting his words out. Shrugging, Kotsky grabbed another roll. He thought I was you when we drove through town the other day and flagged me down. When he saw me, we introduced ourselves. That was it. Nothing much. Outside of him being a complete asshole. That's how he knew, he breathed out softly. He always comes around when a new person starts, Shinzo mumbled. Why? Well, he wants to meet everyone. He could see Freckles was searching for the right words. What a fucking shitty liar. Kotsky tipped his head. Meet me? Why's that? Do you think he's afraid you'll fall in love with the likes of me? Flexing his bicep playfully, he chuckled. Maybe someone better has come along. Freckles gaped at him and went back to being beet red. As if you'd ever have a chance with Iz. Shinzo harumphed and crossed his arms, glaring at him. Why wouldn't I have a chance? He grinned, keeping up the game. Maybe he was fucking playing with fire, but the looks on their faces was worth it, and they'd finally shut up about Mirio chasing the asshole around. Freckles could thank him later for putting the target on his own back instead. That's dead man talk, Sarah called from the sink. I think competition's a healthy thing. Grinning, he winked again at Freckles, who narrowed his eyes at him, starting to look less embarrassed and more perturbed. Are you really trying to win me over? He cocked a brow and gave him an incredulous look. I might just try that. Maybe you could give me pointers. Kotsky bantered back. This was good. I happen to have a thing for cowboys. His smile suddenly grew downright evil, but only when they're riding a horse. Any connection he thought they had vanished instantly. A cold shiver of fear ran down Kotsky's spine. He didn't like the look on his face one bit. Then I guess I'm out, he laughed nervously. Giving up so quickly? His brows pushed upwards as the smile grew wider, and somehow even more wicked. Kiri, he slapped his shoulder. Yeah, boss. I think today might be a good day for our new ranch hand to learn how to ride. Kotsky inhaled sharply, almost choking on his lunch. The chill turned to sheer panic. But I was just trying. He looked toward Kiri and Cero. Oh no, Freckles snapped his fingers at him. They will not help. You wanted to know how to win me over, right? He taunted him. Then you're gonna need to ride a horse. The soft, menacing chuckle coming from the purple freak next to him only added to the overwhelming waves of nausea starting to roll through his stomach as anxiety gripped him. What the fuck just happened? Throwing on his jacket, Shoto rushed into the bank. He could see Mirio's truck turn into the bank parking lot through the windows. What the hell? Better not come in here, asshole. He flipped on the lights to his office and sat at his desk trying to catch his breath. It was only a few minutes later when the beast blasted in through the back door. Tipping his hat back on his head, Mirio stopped and looked around for a moment, his glittering eyes homing in on him at his desk. Grinning mischievously, he sauntered up to the front counter. Shoto lifted his chair slightly so he could see him at the teller's window. Slowly, Mirio bent over and leaned on his elbows, his jeans pulling tight across his ass. Huffing, Shoto turned away and flipped on his computer. What the hell was that mongrel doing following him here? He'd just begun trying to figure out what to work on when there was a knock on his door. Mr. Todoroki? Hello, Miss Asue. He forced a smile, seeing the assistant manager with Muriel behind her. Mr. Togeda has some questions for you. Are you available? I, uh, he realized his desk was completely clean. Sighing, he nodded. Of course, I can help him. Closing the door behind him, Muriel strolled into his office. Hello, Mr. Todoroki, he chuckled. So formal here. Get the hell out of here, Mr. Togeta, Shoto jeered, looking out his office window into the bank. He kept the fake smile plastered on his face. Mario grabbed the cord on the blinds. You know I hate it when you make that face. He tugged the chain until the blinds fell over the window with a thud. I like it better when you're alone with me. Open those up. Panicked, Shoto leaped from his chair. He eyed the distance between himself and the exit. Blocking the door, Mirio shook his head. Not getting away this time. We're at my bank, Shoto seethed. And you went to Iz's ranch. He stomped his foot and crossed his arms. Mirio swept his gaze up his body. Then I guess you shouldn't have started this with me. Start? I didn't start. Sputtering, Shoto sat back down and pursed his lips. Fine. He focused on his computer. All he needed to do was ignore him. I just came into the bank to get a little help from my own personal banker. Shoto rolled his eyes and kept typing. You need to leave, sir. He bit out the last word sarcastically. Ah, how sweet. But if I recall, Mariode whispered seductively, you were the one being called sir. Moving slowly across the office, he sat on the side of his desk and leaned closer to him. Please, sir, Mirio cooed playfully. Let me shove my cock into you. Shut up. Don't say that. Shoto spun on him. You don't like the word cock? How about dick? Not that crap. All of it. Lurching out of his chair for the door, Mirio kicked his boot against the wall. He was trapped. So you're saying you want all of it? He tipped his hat back and grinned. Fucker. Shoto fell back and wheeled his chair away from him, hitting the cabinet behind his desk. He'd backed himself into a corner. Laughing huskily, Mirio licked his lips. I feel like a wolf that's trapped his prey. Leaping off the desk, he landed directly in front of him. He planted his hands on the handles of his chair. That stupid smile was still on his face. Didn't you have fun with me? No, I didn't. Shoto leaned back as far as he could. Yes, you did. Mirio moved his lips up against his ear, his voice a husky growl. As I recall, you came at least 4 times. Shoving at his chest, Shoto tried to get some room, his hot breath igniting a streak of heat that went straight to his dick. I made a mistake, okay? Mirio ran a finger down his buttoned shirt until he stopped just above the obvious bulge in his suit pants. For a man that says he doesn't make mistakes, I kind of find that hard to believe. I was desperate, Shoto snapped, shoving at him again. I was looking for a quick fuck and you were there. Believe me, he sneered. I don't usually screw around with dogs. But I thought that was why you liked me. Mirio pouted playfully, letting him push him away. Face it, Shoto, that's what makes you hot. Grabbing the chair again, he jerked him close, his knee wedged in between his legs. You like being fucked by a dirty dog. Shoto grabbed his thigh, trying to keep him from moving, but Mirio still managed to rub his knee skillfully against his growing cock. Maybe you need to roll around in the mud a bit more. Hooking his arm around his neck, Mirio dragged him from his chair and took his mouth in a demanding kiss. Shoto struggled against him, trying to see his office door. Someone might come in. He breathed and licked his lips, holding his chin tightly in his grasp. I thought you liked a little danger. He sucked on his lips. Open. His tone left no room for him to disobey. Shoto melted under him, doing as he was told. Mirio's chuckle thundered inside his mouth. Wait, not... Shit, Shoto gasped. Not here. Already started. He cupped his hard cock, his tongue stroking inside his mouth. Mirio, seriously. Sighing, he kissed him softly. You got 2 choices, Shoto. First one is you give me a blowjob here at your desk, or second, you have 5 minutes to get to my truck and your dirty dog will fuck your uptight ass properly. Truck. Shoto couldn't focus. Truck. Chuckling, Mirio kissed him one more time. I think that's a good choice. He paused for a beat and added, Sir. Standing, he adjusted his jeans and patted himself. Guess there's no hiding the fact that my cock is ready for you. Just pull your shirt out. Nah, that fucking lazy grin was back. I've got nothing to hide. He planted a kiss on his forehead. I'm giving you exactly 5 minutes, or next time I walk in. He pointed to the window. I'll open those blinds, bend you over this desk, and fuck you for everyone to see. Ruffling his hair, he walked out of the office. Taking a deep breath, Shoto fell back into his chair and shuddered. What the hell was he going to do about him? His ass is so big that I had to pull down the 19-inch saddle. Shinso walked bombshell around the arena. Katsuki was standing by the mounting block, sweat trickling down his cheek in the warm sun. Shinso eyed him as he scratched the horse's neck. You look like you're going to run or throw up. Maybe both? Don't tease him, Shin. Freckles took the reins from him. I'll help out. Go do something else. Hell no. Shinso just laughed as he jumped up on the fence with the others to watch. What's 19 inches? Katsuki stared at the saddle on the horse. That was for him. It's how they measure Western saddles. Freckles lined up bombshell to the mounting block. A bigger person usually needs a longer saddle. I use a 17-inch. That's 'cause you got a cute little ass, is. Thanks, Zero. Freckles flipped him off. Katsuki swallowed hard as all three began laughing. He glanced over at them. Do they have to watch? Don't pay attention to them. Someday you'll understand. Watching the first lesson is the best part of the job. Patting the wooden block, he motioned for him to step up. Eventually you won't need this to get up, but it's safer to start this way. Safer? Nothing seemed safe right now as he climbed onto the block and stared down at the dark leather saddle. Swing your leg over and sit down gently. He was waiting patiently for him. Katsuki appreciated his seriousness versus the idiots on the fence catcalling him. Get on! Shinso chose that exact moment to yell at him. Shin! Freckles snapped coldly. If you don't stop, then you'll clean the entire mama barn on your own. Worth it! He shouted back, laughing. I'm ready. Katsuki finally mumbled after taking a deep breath, which didn't help, but he settled down into the saddle. Good job. Freckles patted his leg and smiled. Katsuki could feel a hot blush race up his neck at his words, and that damn sweet smile was back. Focus. Are you ready for the reins? Sure, he lied, and let him move his fingers until he was holding them correctly. Then Freckles grabbed his foot, which surprised him, and he jerked it from his hand. The horse's head shot straight up. Oh, shit. He panicked as Bombshell turned and rolled his eye at him, his ears flattening back. More laughter drifted from the trio on the fence. A strong hand gripped his calf tightly. He glanced down. Freckles was looking up at him sternly. Fuck. He could feel the fire on his neck spread to his ears. Kachan, you need to relax. He gently shook his leg. First, don't clutch so tightly to everything. You'll confuse the horse. He can tell you're nervous, and that makes him worry too. So try to think about something that makes you happy. Sucking in a shallow breath, Katsuki nodded dumbly. Something happy. Considering his recent living arrangements, there was only one memory that stuck out. That day on the ocean with the tumbling waves and seagulls screaming. His first real taste of the free world again. But even better had been those big green eyes while the cold night air whipped through his curly hair, and the sound of his heartbeat as they lay together in the darkness. Katsuki could already feel the calm spreading through his body. He sank deeper into the saddle. That's it. Freckles squinted up at him. You must be thinking of me, he teased. Cocking a brow, Katsuki smirked. For an engaged man, you're quite the flirt. His mouth fell open in shock. That's because he tried to get any words out. See what happens when you tease me? Katsuki flashed him a cocky grin. But you're right, I am thinking of you. Oh, he coughed. I didn't mean I was kidding. I'm not. Freckles' face went pale as he fidgeted with the rope in his hand. Kotsky snorted softly, feeling better. Are you going to talk about riding or actually ride? Shinso yelled from the arena fence. There was more laughing from the three as they whistled for him to start riding. Ignoring them, Kotsky shifted in the saddle and got a feel of the horse beneath him. What now? Put your feet in the stirrups. Freckles adjusted the length and helped him get settled. Clipping a lunge line into the bit, he clucked to get the horse walking. I'll keep Bombshell on a line until you get used to him moving. Okay. Kotsky forced himself to stay calm as the animal began to walk. Inspecting the dirt below, it looked soft enough in the event he had to bail. Bombshell moved lazily to the end of the lunge line and began walking in a circle. The horse moving under him was odd, especially the way his hips swayed in a rhythmic, swinging motion. Freckles kept giving him instructions, how to sit, hold the reins, and reminding him to relax. Good job. Don't grip your legs. If you feel unsteady, keep your center strong and stay deep in the saddle. What if I need to stop him? Do I pull back? Kotsky realized he'd not asked about the damn brakes. Our horses are trained by weight and body movement. Try sitting down on your seat bones, kinda like sitting on your back pockets. Use that big ass, Shinso cracked loudly. Fuck you, damn freak, Kotsky muttered under his breath and experimentally pushed his weight into the saddle. The horse slowed. Now pull the reins back, just slightly. Bombshell stopped, flicking his tail. His ears moved back and forth. Freckles grinned at him. Look at you. You're a natural. Not sure about that, Kotsky growled, but the heat of his blush was getting hotter every damn time he praised him. Let your legs hang long, he called out to him. Really feel the weight in your heels. Then squeeze your legs gently. Let out the reins and lighten your body. The horse flipped his ears and began walking again. I always thought it was all reins. Kotsky marveled at how the horse listened to his body. This is kind of like riding a motorcycle. It is? Well, not exactly, but it's all about weight distribution, especially fast bikes. Except, he adjusted his legs, this horse is a lot wider. Laughing, Freckles turned slowly as Bombshell moved around him in a circle. All right now, try to slow him down a few times, just using your weight. Using his weight and legs, he managed to slow and speed up the horse several times. Freckles made small approving sounds every time he managed to do it correctly. You're really good at this, Kachan. Good, Shinso yelled. Of course he is. He's going slower than a damn snail. He giggled as he leaned out over the fence. Come on, make him trot. See how he likes his balls bruised. Pushing out further, his boot slipped, throwing him forward. He almost started to pitch headfirst into the arena. Clutching his shirt, Kiri yanked him back. Don't be stupid and go falling, Shin. In fact, we should get back to work. Sounds like a good idea. Kotsky frowned at them as the horse walked by them. Get the hell out of here. Shin, Freckles echoed. Hell no. He turned and grabbed Kiri's shirt. This is the most fun I've had in so long, he begged pitifully. Fuck, Kotsky gritted out. The damn idiotic redhead was head over heels. There was no fucking way he was going to be able to resist him. Fine, Kiri nodded. Just don't scare the damn horse or Iz will kill you. He settled his elbows on the top fence and sighed. Kotsky rolled his eyes. Pushover. If he had any confidence on the horse, he'd go over and shove him off the fence. Do you want to try a trot? Freckles tipped his head. You're riding really well. You don't have to if you're scared. It'll mess with your head. Was that a fucking challenge? Kotsky wasn't sure if Freckles was baiting him or not, but listening to Shinso jeering at him had squelched any fear. No, no. Freckles backpedaled, but Kotsky gave a hefty squeeze to Bombshell, who broke out into a trot. Oh, shit, he yelled, gathering up the lunge line. Don't hunch. Sit on your back pockets. Oh, shit, shit. His commands were coming at him so fast he couldn't keep them straight in his head. In the first few strides at the trot, Kotsky was sure his balls were going to be flat for the rest of his life. The pain was excruciating, but he sat up straight and tried to keep from bouncing everywhere. Just then he heard giggling from the center of the arena. Glancing over, it was fucking Freckles. What the hell? Gritting his teeth, he was able to go around a full circle, then sat deep and slowed the horse back to a walk. Then the throbbing started. He fucking needed ice. Stopping the horse again, he managed to smile triumphantly while hiding the pain radiating from his groin. Like that, flicking a quick look at the others, he felt a smug sense of pride at the look of shock on their faces. Woo-hoo! Ciro braced his legs on the fencing and clapped, whistling loudly. Damn! He slapped Kiri's shoulder. Is right, man. You're a natural. Figures. Sliding down off the fence, Shinso jammed his hands in his pockets and stormed off. What's his deal? Koski clenched his jaw to keep the grimace off his face. He didn't get to see you fall, Kiri laughed casually as he jumped off the railing. Hey, we gotta fix that leak at the calving barn. I'll go with them, Sarah called. You okay finishing up with him? Yeah, go on. Freckles slowly moved closer as he looped the lunge line in his hand. Patting Bombshell's neck, he looked up and whispered conspiratorially, They can't hear you now. Oh, fuck, Kotsky groaned, grabbing his balls. I'm gonna fucking die. I told you not to trot today, he giggled softly. You asshole, you basically dared me. Every word was a struggle. Leading the horse to the mounting block, Freckles sighed, used slow movements, sliding off, and tried to stand. Fuck you. Squeezing his eyes shut, Kotsky knew he'd have to move, but the thought of further pain was terrifying. Come on. He pulled his foot out of the stirrup. You can do this. Finally getting off the horse, Kotsky hobbled for a moment, his legs and balls throbbing. Ice. Now. He laughed louder. There's some in the barn. Believe me, we all know what it feels like. Everyone starts out as a beginner. Getting down off the block was a nightmare. His jeans pulled tight over his aching balls with every move. Groaning, he hobbled out of the arena. When will it get better? He tried moving his legs in a wider, swingy motion to get relief. Never. Freckles burst out laughing. Sorry. He held up his hand as Koski glared at him. I'll stop. Fuck you. Giving up, he unbuttoned his jeans to try to get the rest of the way into the barn. There's ice in the office, Freckles sputtered out. He was doing a shit poor job of not laughing. Going into the office, he opened the freezer and found a black wrap. This? He held it up, refusing to move. Green hair poked around the corner, followed by his whole red fucking face. He was still giggling. Yep, he disappeared just as quickly, making more strange noises. Shuffling out of the office, he plopped down on a bale of hay and stretched out. You think this is funny, don't you? He shoved the icy wrap down his pants and against his balls. Ah, that feels good. He closed his eyes. Be sure to take some medicine to help with the aching. So did it work? Feeling slightly better, Kotsky's lip twitched up in a smile. Did what work? Did I win you over? You know, the cowboy on his horse? He opened his eyes just a bit to try and see his reaction. He was on the other side of Bombshell, grooming him. He paused, peeked over the horse's back, and then hiding again, he continued brushing the horse without saying a word. I guess no answer is my answer. Moving the ice pack again, Kotsky looked up at the wooden rafters above, sighing loudly. I suppose I'm going to have to do that shit again, aren't I? At least until I look like a real cowboy. Freckles was staying quiet. Kotsky smirked. Now he was finally shutting up. If that's the case, what I don't need is that purple asshole getting his kicks the whole time I'm learning. Shin? He finally spoke up. He's harmless, just trying to get a rise out of you. If you ignore him, it won't be fun for him anymore. Kotsky grunted in reply and shifted the ice pack to a colder side. He closed his eyes again, listening to the sound of Freckles putting away the tack and horse. Do you feel guilty at all for not helping put away your horse that you rode? He huffed. Not in the fucking slightest. If I move again, it'll be too soon. He laughed as he heard Freckles lead Bombshell outside to his pen. The barn grew quiet, outside of the now familiar rustling sounds of the other horses. Too quiet. Where the hell did he go? You done? He lifted his arms to see Freckles standing in the middle of the barn aisle, watching him openly, green eyes locked onto his lower half. Startled at being caught staring, he blushed and spun around, racing into the office. Clicking his tongue softly, Koski looked down at himself. His shirt was pulled up, exposing his stomach. His pants pulled down low below his hips, showing his underwear. Never had he been more happy that he worked out regularly. The freckled shit deserved to be uncomfortable after making him wry today. Standing stiffly, he waddled toward the barn door as another feeling bubbled up. Desire. As if his balls didn't already ache. Freckles was still hiding in the tack room. Clearly he was rattled. Good. Part of him was glad that he was attracted to him. I'm going to head down to my cabin for a bit. He waited for him. Okay. What's next on my chore list? Kotsky smirked. No way was he leaving until he came out. Maybe check with Sarah? His voice was thin and slightly strained. Tell you what, Kotsky deliberately baited him. What? Freckles wasn't budging. I'll be up in an hour to start dinner. He heard movement as he finally emerged from the tack room. You don't have to cook, he protested as he came out into the barn aisle. Kotsky grinned. He'd known he could get him to come out eventually. You have a lot more to do than me, and the work shed is almost clean. I'm going to start taking a few meals off your hands. Can you cook? He looked skeptical. Actually, Kotsky winked, I can. It's one of my many talents. Do you cook as well as you ride a horse? Freckles bit his lip, holding back more laughter. Low blow. Lifting the icy wrap off his balls, he smiled. Literally. He was rewarded with a wide smile as Freckles laughed. It was the same cute, freckled grin from that night. Leaning on the barn door, Kotsky thought a moment, weighing his words. I'm good at something else, too. Freckles tipped his head as if wondering what quippy thing he was going to shoot at him. What's that? It also turns out I'm pretty damn good at making you smile. Doing his best to walk away without hobbling, he smashed the cold wrap between his legs as he made his way across the courtyard. Stopping at his cabin, he looked back to see him leaning on the barn door, watching him. Waving, he went inside and flopped on his couch. The words he'd said to him at the parole office ringing in his ears. I'm not really that carefree, happy man you met yesterday, so it's best not to think I'm like that. Closing his eyes, Kotsky chuckled as a deep stab of satisfaction spread through him. It turned out that not only was Freckles engaged, he was also a liar. Is? Shinso pushed through the back door. You have the barbecue set up. Are you cooking steaks tonight? He stopped short as Kotsky looked up from the stove. The screen door slammed closed behind him. What do you have there? Kotsky ignored the scowl on his face as he checked out the load of vegetables in Shinso's arms. Is this from the garden? Pointing to the thick spinach on the top, he smiled. This'll go well with dinner tonight. Toss it in the sink and I'll wash it up. Okay, Shinso grumbled. Where's Iz? I think he went down to talk with Sarah. Something about the calving barn? Oh, yeah. The water lines have to be rerouted. He looked directly at his crotch. How are your balls? Biting back a quick retort, Kotsky kept his voice conversational. He decided he was going to take the advice Freckles had given him and completely ignore his attitude. The sooner they could get on good terms, the better. Sore and bruised. Doubt I'll be masturbating any time soon. Shinso couldn't stop his shocked laughter in time as he clamped his mouth shut. Turning quickly, he dumped everything into the sink, trying to hide his smile. Keeping a straight face, Kotsky handed him a chunk of cheese left over from the block he'd been grating. Here. He stared at the offering like it was a spider. I'm not going to poison you. Taking a quick bite to prove his innocence, he handed it back to him. Fine. Snagging the food, he popped it into his mouth. What are you making? Sniffing in the air sharply, his stomach grumbled loudly. Smells good. He sounded annoyed. Nothing too crazy. Izuku defrosted steaks, and there was a ton of cheese in here, so I'm making my spicy mac and cheese. Kotsky stirred the flour into the milk and turned down the heat. I wasn't sure what to do for a vegetable, so you saved me. Shinso rocked on his heels for a minute, watching him, then sat down at the table. Kotsky side-eyed him. This was a good start. At least he hadn't left or made a snarky comment. As the milk thickened, he turned off the flame and mixed in the cheese. Now to get this idiot to actually like him. So tell me about the red and white-haired prick who was here earlier. Shinso's loud bark of laughter surprised him. He's a real jerk. He chewed on his lip, sizing him up. Katsuki could see he looked nervous at first. Then shrugging, he relaxed and stared out the big kitchen window. They grew up together. Iz had a crush on him for a long time and only wanted to be wherever Shoto was at the time. Kiri said they dated? Yeah, but not at first. Shoto knew Iz liked him, but nothing happened until I showed up. Closing the oven door, Katsuki set the timer. What do you mean? I was a piece of work back then. Just back then? His eyes narrowed. Sorry. Pulling out 2 beers, he handed him one and sat down. You came here out of juvie, right? Yeah, Inko and Aizawa went to high school together. Inko needed some ranch hands about the time Aizawa moved to the parole division. That's when they came up with this idea for a program to help parolees get back on their feet. Wow, how long have they been doing this? I think 15 years. I'm the 5th person they hired. How old was Izuku when you got here? I was 16. Iz and Shoto were 17. I didn't want to be here and picked fights with everyone. Shoto and I went toe to toe a few times, but he was different. Let me guess, he ignored you? Letting out a small laugh, Shinso smiled. He did. That was the advice he gave me about you. Oh. Sniffing, Shinso took a swig of his beer. I'll be sure to pester you harder now. Katsuki just stared at him, biting his tongue. Looking away, Shinso laughed. So did you fall in love with Izuku? Twisting his lips, he dipped his head, his cheeks flaming red. It wasn't like that. I really liked Iz, but not as a boyfriend. Thing is, I was too young to understand the difference. I followed him around everywhere, hung on him, did everything for him. Did he like you? I'm pretty sure just as friends, or at least he never said anything else. What he did understand was how desperate I was for his attention, so he lavished it on me any time I stopped picking fights. He's a damn good horse trainer for a reason. Shinso smiled softly. As long as you're doing what he wants, he'll heap the praise on you. Katsuki remembered how he treated him during the riding lesson. There was intense pull from deep inside his bruised balls. Wincing, he immediately started calculating how to earn more rewards from Freckles. It was good for a while, but then Shoto began acting weird when the 3 of us were together. About 2 months later, I found out they were dating officially. Inko lost her shit. Izuku's mom? Shinso nodded. She likes Shoto? Well, she likes the Todoroki family, especially his dad. They grew up together, along with Aizawa. Enji is a rancher too, and she always wanted to join forces with him. After Iz and Shoto started dating, she was already making plans for them to marry. The marriage contract? Katsuki tapped the beer bottle on the table. Yeah. Then they left for university. Inko and Enji had rented an apartment for them, but things were already going south. Going south? Did they break up? Iz tried, but Shoto held fast. That's when he proposed to him. Sneaky bastard asked Inko first, though, so she basically said yes for Iz and drew up the contract. I never heard what happened, if Iz ever said yes or no for himself, but when they came back after graduation, they were engaged. The information dump was impressive. At least you were probably glad to see them again? Something dark flickered in his eyes. Nah, they... Clamping his mouth shut, Shinso shoved his chair back and stood. Thanks for the cheese and beer. I better go check on Kiri. Spitting on his heel, he dashed out the door. Sitting alone, Katsuki blinked. What the hell was that? Finishing his beer, he went to the sink and began cleaning the spinach. Mesmerized by the dirt swirling off the thick leaves, Katsuki figured the story was a lot more complicated than Shinso had let on, and, by his reaction, he could guess the two-toned jerk had probably pulled some stupid jealousy stunt. Tearing at the spinach viciously, he threw it in the steamer pan with some garlic. He could understand now why Shinso was so prickly. He'd lost his best friend to a real asshole. The sound of boots on the porch jerked him from his thoughts. The door swung open, and Freckles appeared, his cheeks bright red from the hike up from the cow barns. He smiled at him hesitantly, obviously remembering being caught staring at him in the barn, but his face changed to shock as he sniffed the air. Wow, it smells great. He began to wash up. What did you make? Some mac and cheese with those steaks you defrosted. Shinso brought in some spinach from the garden. Shinso, huh? Freckles grinned as he dried his hands on a kitchen towel. You managed to get him on your side already? You really are natural. Not sure about that. We just see eye to eye on a few things. Oh, really? He clicked on the oven light to see the bubbling dish. What things? As Freckles bent down, his jeans pulled tight. Shit. Kotsky couldn't help but look. He really did have a cute ass. Getting a little space between them, he sat at the table. Freckles turned to look at him expectantly. Oh, nothing really. Just talked about our past. He wasn't sure he wanted to come out and admit they both hated his fiancée. Shin's juvie time? His voice jumped in surprise. Interesting. He isn't one to usually share with anyone. Just a bit, nothing much. It's going to take more time, but hopefully we found some common ground. Good. I hate it when everyone's fighting. It makes things tense around here. He lifted the lid on the steamed spinach. The smell of garlic filled the kitchen. Where did you learn to cook? That's not really cooking. Smells like it to me. Freckles chuckled and sat down at the table. When I was in, lockup, Kotsky still hated using the word prison around him. They had three classes. Automotive, which, he shrugged. You already know how to fix a car. Yeah, he agreed. Then there was woodworking, which never really interested me, and cooking. I like to eat, so I picked that one. How long did you take the course? Originally, it was only supposed to be for 3 months, but I talked the instructor into continuing. He applied with the warden to make it a full 2-year course, and I eventually got my certification. Figured I might be able to get into the restaurant business when I got out. Why didn't you do that? You said something about construction, right? That night at the hotel, uh, um, he stammered, realized what he'd just said. Blushing, he fidgeted with his hands. Sorry, he shrugged. I told you to keep quiet about everything, and then I went and put my foot in my mouth. As long as it's you and not me, Kotsky laughed and jumped up to grab another beer. You want one? Sure. He rubbed his neck. Well, I know it's a little awkward. I don't mind one bit, Deku. He winked and handed him the bottle. That's about the only time in my life that I like to be reminded about. Sitting down, he cracked open the beer, enjoying the flush rushing into his freckled cheeks. I did try to get a line cook job. He continued the conversation. I filled out a lot of applications, but no one hired me. You know, that's why my mom and Aizawa created this program. It sucks because it's not easy getting someone to hire you out of prison without some work experience. Yeah, kinda like being young. No one hires you without experience, but you can't get experience without a job. Sort of a catch-22. I'm glad we met. Freckles smiled wistfully. I love the idea of fate. It was meant to happen, and if there is anyone out there that deserves this job, I really think it's you. Thanks. Tilting his head, Kotsky arched his brow. So, which meeting was fate, when we met in the parole office or on the beach? I'd say kind of both. Aren't they one and the same? Not to me. Kotsky held his gaze. The meeting in the parole office brought me to the ranch. Pausing, he grinned slyly. You're a brave man to have said yes, considering how we met on the beach. Leaning forward, he lowered his voice. I think that meeting was fate. The best day of my life. Oh, he let out a long breath. Then I changed my answer. I say the parole office, then. Kotsky snickered at his statement. Freckles frowned. Look, I apologized for reminding you of that night. It wasn't like anything really happened. He spun his beer bottle back and forth. As you can see, my life is complicated. Being engaged does that to people, Kotsky drawled, chuckling as a flicker of annoyance passed through those big eyes. Damn, he was enjoying getting under his skin a bit. It's interesting, though. One thing I can't figure out. You came off as a lonely person that night, but then I found out you have a fiancé. A childhood sweetheart at that. I've been racking my brains trying to understand. It's my business to understand, not yours, he huffed. I don't think I owe you an explanation. Honestly, I don't even know if I understand myself. He fell quiet, staring hard at the table. You're right. Kotsky clicked his tongue. You don't owe me anything. But what about him? You mean Shoto? Freckles glanced up in surprise. Yeah, your fiancé. If I were him, I'd sure as hell be wanting an explanation. Clenching his jaw, Freckles leapt to his feet. To hell with you. You don't know anything. This is exactly why I didn't want to bring you back here. He was trembling, and his face was flaming red. Kotsky wasn't sure if he was angry or embarrassed, but either way, he definitely snapped. He'd gone too far. Sighing, he held up his hands in surrender. Sorry, I'm sorry. That was shitty of me. Pursing his lips, Freckles snorted and sat back down. Playing with his beer, he gave him a terse look. No, it's not your fault. I'm the one who should be sorry. I've been flirting with you, and that's on me. I promise, though, that's over with. That's too bad, Kotsky teased gently. I was looking forward to having you teach me to ride, especially if I'm going to be able to impress anyone as a cowboy. Stop. Freckles snapped again. Just stop it. Are you even listening to me? I can't fucking tell if you're joking or, he stammered. Or what? A wry smile ghosted his lips. Just forget I said anything. How about this? Kotsky cocked a smile. I think you're damn near the cutest and nicest man I've ever met. The statement had the effect he'd been hoping for, considering Freckles went through 3 full reactions before settling on confusion. You you do? There was a trace of surprised happiness in his voice. I do. He sipped his beer. Damn if he couldn't get any cuter. And if you keep that look on your face, I might begin to believe you think the same about me. As if. He recovered his composure quickly. I know. Kotsky stopped him. A fiancé. Sorry, Freckles. I should have just kept my mouth shut, but damn, I've been thinking about it since early today, and I just wanted you to know. I mean, I got nothing more to lose at this point. Well, I do have something to lose, he breathed out. Standing, he headed to the adjoining door. I'm sorry, but this is where I have to stop you, and me. His voice grew hard. I'm engaged to a wealthy, successful rancher. He's a good friend of our family and a solid partner. Are you trying to convince me or yourself? Do I need to haul your ass back to Aizawa? The pinched look was back, and his green eyes were almost gray. They were so cold. I have enough drama in my life without you making it worse. No. Kotsky held his tongue. He'd gone too far again. Good. You didn't seem that stupid. We'll continue writing lessons after breakfast. Make sure to settle up Bombshell and be ready. Pushing through the door, he paused. But nothing else. Is that understood? Yes. Good. The door slammed shut. Damn it, he sighed to himself. Couldn't shut the fuck up, could you, Kotsky?